Hey everyone, it's Emily Fox, and today is going to be our next episode of Read It or Unhaul It, which I believe this is number 8. Every month, I attempt for a reading vlog to read as many books that are unread on my shelves. I pick them from the ridiculous giant jar, and I'm allowed to put one back every month. But this month, I think I'm going to give myself unlimited return. I'm gonna be honest, I've had the crappiest 2 weeks, maybe not of my life, but like in a very long time, the last 2 weeks. So we're trying to be nice this week, okay? Jar, please be nice to me because I've been struggling. So we just want good vibes, but maybe it means that I'm gonna be more cutthroat and just get rid of books as soon as I'm not enjoying them. I've been working on it, I'm getting better at it, but good vibes, please. I'm also getting a colonoscopy on Friday, so I don't know how I'm gonna feel, okay, this week. I feel like I have to change my diet, and like the last day it's like liquid only, and I'm gonna spend a lot of time in the bathroom. So I might have time to read a lot. I might, depending on how I'm feeling. So listen, is it TMI? Yes. But I mean, we're all adults here. Literally, look at my stats. We're all adults here, okay? I can tell you whatever I want. Oh gosh. Okay. So, ooh, pink. We don't get pink very often. Where's my jar actually? This is the red or unread. All the papers of the other books that I went through during this challenge this year so far. And I don't think there's only one. Only one pink one. So we don't go through these very often. They are from this specific bookcase. I have 7 in this room for anyone that doesn't know. Um, just to give you an idea. There are these 2 in the middle of the room, and then there are more on the other side. So there's a lot going on here. But the books from this shelf are everything else. This is what I call them. So historical fiction, romance, children's book. Like there's a lot of mix, literally fiction, contemporary. So I don't really know what's going to be on there. It's a long paper. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I don't know if it's on the right side. I feel like maybe this one. Hopefully it's focusing. Oh, it's looking dark on the little viewfinder, so hopefully it did. Oh, that's fine. That's like fantasy romance, but I put it there because romance. So Claudia's paw on the this is absolutely ridiculous. Or the trash bag. I'm trying to declutter my clothes. But she's like trash. She's a lot. So let me grab the book, which I think is actually on the desk because I was supposed to read this during the fall. I haven't yet. So the X Hex, which is hard. H's, okay? I swear I'm bilingual at this point, except for H's. They're still my sworn enemy. But yeah, fantasy, low fantasy, romance. I know some of you mentioned that it wasn't the greatest. That's kind of why I haven't picked it up, even though I wanted to for the fall. I guess I am now. But honestly, I have low expectations, so I might just love it more because of that. But also, I just don't have the brain power to read much right now. So this might be it. I believe this woman just cursed a boy, and then they meet up later on. So we're gonna just try it. I'm also currently reading some nonfiction. I'm back at it. I feel like I mean, last week I had a 5-star book, so like I'm fine. But before that, I kept trying books and I hated them so much so that I went back to nonfiction. So yay me, I guess. And I'm almost done with this one. It doesn't look like it. I'm here, but there's all the notes and stuff at the end. So I only have this much left. So like probably 2 days-ish. I've been really good at reading like 10 pages-ish a day, and so far so good. I'll leave the review for when I'm done, but so far so good. In audiobook, I am almost done, or I'm halfway through Murder Road by Simone St. John's. So far, not my favorite by her. You had warned me, but you know, I had it. I wanted to try it. But more importantly, I think this is going to be a cozy, actually, fantasy vlog, because that's kind of one. And I just got my hands again from the library on The Spell Shop, which is a cozy fantasy, which I've been really looking forward to. It's a new release, and I swear every single one of you that commented in the comment section that I should read this only had positive things to say. And I feel like every time I announce I want to read this, this is when everyone that didn't enjoy a book will come and tell me, which is totally fair. It lowers my expectations. It's fine. I don't always agree too, but so many of you told me that you love this. And I'm really, really excited for it. So I have it. It's 12 hours. And as soon as I'm done with Murder Road, I'll move on to this one. So I will probably have time to listen to it as, I'm so sorry. Listen, you gotta laugh about these things because it is shitty, literally. So, yeah, that's the plan so far this week. I'll probably have time to read something more after this one. And some of you did say that I should jokingly decide if these books are better than what I will be going through. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know. I don't think this is going to be that bad, but we never know what else I can pick from the jar. I might end up picking some books that are. So yeah, that's where we're at. We're gonna try to have fun. Low expectations for the books for me for the vlog. Let's do this. Update time. I will be honest, this week has already felt way, way longer than it should have been. The diet that you have to be on is like low in like fibers or whatever residue, and it's been giving me a headache. I think it's the Gatorade, but I miss vegetables already. So not feeling great, but I have finished, well, the one book I'm supposed to plus something else. So I did finish the X Hex, and my expectations were very low because of everyone telling me that it wasn't going to be that great. And I understand why. I did feel like it's not necessarily my cup of tea because there's a little bit of spice, and it does center the romance a lot more than the actual storyline. But I think because my expectations were low, I think this was all my brain could take anyway, and I enjoyed it for what it was. So you have these two characters who had a thing years ago when they were 19, 20, and he left, and she cursed him drunkenly, not thinking it would actually do something, and it did. And whenever he comes back to do his family magical business in town, the curse starts an issue. Let's keep it vague. And I enjoyed, the magical vibes. I enjoyed the university. I enjoyed, even the ghost story was fine. But for some reason, I wasn't that emotionally invested. I did like the cat because, of course, they always managed to make a cat interesting in a storyline. It was sometimes a little cringy with the whole, like, did you bring me to a magical sex cave? But the cats, of course. What else was there? I put only a few post-its. I did feel like the whole, like, let's not talk about anyone about the fact that I just cursed the whole town felt a little bit like YA. Like, this is definitely adult, they're all adults. But I think in general, I have issues with the whole miscommunication or like, just let's not tell the people that could fix the situation really quickly anything about it. Yes, it makes for the story, like, that's the reason the story can happen, but like, I find it a bit annoying. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old for this. It's so common in YA that you're like, please talk to an adult, but like they're all adults and you still won't tell your own dad that you cursed the whole town. Like that's, a little silly. Like it's selfish too. More cat situation. The cat was cool, okay? This is such a tangent, but I've mentioned in the past, but it's so common in fantasy where people were like, oh, they need blood, so like don't cut their hand to do it. And every time I'm like, how do you move on and never talk about it again? Because if I cut myself, it's going to be annoying. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to say constantly. Like I remember, was it this summer? I had a little I'll put it like I hurt myself, blister or whatever when I was gardening, and it stayed there for like 2 weeks. And like on your hand, it's really annoying. And like I mentioned it a few times in vlogs, it was really annoying me constantly. So I can't imagine cutting my hand and never mentioning it again. Does it not annoy you? Because like it's your anyway, I feel like they always do that in fantasy, and every time I'm like, you did that a little too easily. So yeah, I think I'm gonna round it down to 3-star. Again, no hard feelings. It was fine. I didn't hate it, but it's definitely not a favorite. But I enjoy just witches in general, so I will keep reading books like that, and it's okay. So you weren't wrong, but it was fine. I don't think my brain could have taken anything else. I can't remember if I had finished this before this video or not. My brain has not been there. But I overall enjoyed it. I'll talk about it more in my wrap-up when the brain is back. So now I do need to choose in the book from the jar, and I'll choose another nonfiction. Did I mention I finished the audiobook too? Murder Road. You guys told me that it wasn't great, and yeah, you were right. I kind of struggled to finish it. I don't think I would have if it weren't for the audiobook, but again, no hard feelings. Did I mention what it was about? This couple, freshly married on the honeymoon, ghosts haunting them on the street. Honestly, I don't have much to say about it. It was fine. 3-star also, I guess. Let's pick something else. Let's do this because we want something very easy, by the way, jar, because I am starting the actual prep tomorrow. So like, what little brain power I have will be gone. But I'm going to extend the vlog a little bit instead of being done on Friday. I'll give myself a bit more time. So, oh, green. Green is fantasy. I mean, it could be fine if it's cozy or something, but if it's a very long one, I might put it back. So let's see. It was backward. You couldn't even see it. I guess. Oh, okay. Okay, so as always, my fantasy shelves, which it should be somewhere on here. I feel like it was a white. Is it the cover that is white or the spine? I'm not sure. Haha. So the paper, the spine is not white, but the topsy. So found it. Okay, so I had that reaction because the Paper Menagerie. This book has been on my shelf for a really long time, like at least 5 years, which this challenge it's one of the good thing. Like I want to get around to reading books that were on there for too long. But unfortunately, I did attempt to read The Grace of King by him earlier this year, and I couldn't finish it. And I tried so hard. Like I made it halfway through, and I tried to put it down like 3-4 times. Because it's an adult fantasy series, the first book in there, and it's heavy on the like history book. Like, I think it's based on Chinese history, but it just, every time things would get a little interesting, then they would get boring. And it's one of those books where people are like, oh, it gets so much better. I'm trying to just accept that it doesn't matter. Like, if I don't enjoy it, again, halfway through this thick book, I think it's 600 pages, if I'm not enjoying it, like, there's no point of forcing myself. I'm sad that, you know, I won't get to also love it, but nothing guarantees that if I were to push through, I would enjoy it. And again, we're trying to respect the whole DNF thing. So I couldn't finish that book. So that didn't really make me want to read more by him. Also, he's the one that translated the three-body problem. The series is called The Remembrance of Earth, but everyone knows the three-body problem, which I did enjoy. But I mean, he translated it. He didn't actually write it. So, that's why. Plus, it's a short story collection, which can be really hit and miss. I feel like sometimes they can be a little unsatisfying. So I don't know, but I have heard that it's a little similar to this other. Is it Ted Chiang that wrote it? The author that wrote the story. I can't remember full title. The one that became The Arrival. Okay. The movie The Arrival. Stories of My Life or something like that. Anyway, he wrote 2 short story books, and they're a little bit like Black Mirror-esque, especially the second one. But I've heard that this has been compared to it a little bit, so I'm hoping that I'm going to love it. I bought it hoping I would, and I've since felt that most short story collections can be a little. I just like it's so many stories in one go, and like I tend to read them like in one go, which can be a bit much. Anyway, is it ideal for right now? I don't know. It could be making things much easier because it's short stories, or you can make things so much worse. Low pressure this week, Emily. Low expectations. I can do this, and I'll figure out what I do for nonfiction. I'll pick something, but audiobook wise, I am going to start The Spell Shop. I'll try that, and maybe I'll go through a ton because again, I'll be in the bathroom a lot. So depends on how I feel. I will probably not vlog it. I thought about it, but I probably won't vlog it. I'll tell you how it went next, but that's the plan. For the rest of this vlog. Let's see how it goes. Hi. So I survived. Barely, but I survived. Listen, I know technically everyone is going to go through it at one point or another, so I might as well update you. I technically had both at the same time, endoscopy and colonoscopy. So by Peg Light version, I know there are a couple. So basically you take 3 pills midday, and then at 6 o'clock you have a liter of water mixed with the powder to drink, and then you wake up in the middle of the night to do it again. And I felt fine until I took a gravel, which I think that's the reason I got nauseous, to be honest. So I was super nauseous for 3 hours, then managed to go to bed because I barely did anything. It didn't do much for me. So I woke up pretty early. I only slept like 3 hours because I woke up early to do it again because I was worried. And that time it worked. And I did not get nauseous because I didn't take gravel. That's why I think. Anyway, I will say the whole experience wasn't as bad as I expected, except for the nausea portion. I expected it to taste so much worse because everyone was saying how it tastes awful. And like, I don't know if I'm just less difficult or what, but it wasn't that, like, it didn't taste good. The version I had tasted like fruit punch, apparently. It didn't. It tasted like kids' medicine that tastes like bubble gum, so like sickly sweet kind of. But because it's texture of water, it didn't last, so it was fine. I just would drink a little bit of apple juice after. It was fine. So at least that wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. But people were very truthful when they say to stay in the bathroom. I had made a little nest after that second liter. I literally just stayed there, and yeah, you need to. So that was fine. But the procedure, apparently they don't put you out here in Quebec. So lucky me. You're technically out of it because they give you something, but I like woke up twice for both. Very unpleasant. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't reassure you. I found it extremely unpleasant, but it's done, and they give you a quick feedback right away, and they told me that things looked okay. Like, there was no polyps or anything, so it's not cancer. It's bittersweet because like you're not feeling good, so being told that everything's fine, I'm glad, but like, am I? But they did take some samples, so there are more things to come, and the doctor was clear that she wants to remove other options before, you know, saying, oh, you have IBS or whatever. Like, they love saying that, but like, that's not a solution. That's just a label, so you don't have to do anything for me after. So yeah, that's where we're at health-wise for anyone that was curious. So yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'm happy, but you know, it's done, it's done. I don't have to do it again for like 10 years or whatever. So now books, which is technically what this video is about, right? I did make some progress. Not as much as I thought I would, because I got really nauseous. Like I was saying, I was already dealing with the headache and the nausea kind of. I ended up watching The Last of Us. I hadn't rewatched it, so I watched the first 3 episodes again. Episode 3 is still so good, so good. But I did make some progress with the book. I'm like 100 something pages, 103 pages into it. So far, I'm enjoying it. I will say that first story about the languages from aliens, not the best way to start. Okay, I was going to give up on the book right away, but things pick up. It was still really interesting. So far I'm enjoying them, so I'll tell you once I'm further into it, but so far so good. I'm not going to get off it. I was, you know, a little nervous because of his other book, right? But it's going well. Audiobook, I'm 2 hours into it, like 16% into the spell shop, and so far it's too early to really have much of an idea of how it's going to go, but basically the main character, her family was technically from this, is it island, little village, and they moved to the bigger city, and she works in this library, magical library, and her world is very, very tiny. She's just really into her books. I don't know if she's on the spectrum. It's kind of how I took it for now. Something happens, and the library burns down, so she runs away with some of the spell books that she stole, basically, and goes back to this little village. So I'm assuming that she's gonna, you know, make friends, build a community, open up her world. So I'm curious to see if I'm going to feel like it's a children's book for adult, or if I will enjoy it. Like, that's kind of how I categorize it with cozy fantasy. I feel like sometimes when you're emotionally invested, I love them, and when I'm not, I'm like, it feels like a children's book. So we'll see. It's too early. I did pick a nonfiction. I ended up going with The Callous and the Blade. I don't recommend it yet, okay? I do want to make it clear because I bought this. It was part of a book haul I did, I think it was February of last year. I grabbed a really big pile of older, like, feminist books because there were so many. I don't know whose aunt decided to declutter. That's the story I'm going with. But there were a bunch, and I went through reviews quickly online to try and not grab the ones that are a little too, like, new age woohoo for me. I tend to be picky, but I do think that it's interesting to see how things were compared to today, blah, blah. But this specific topic is the second book I will read on the topic. The first one I had read was Who Cooked the Last Supper. And it's essentially how nowadays religions are very patriarchal, and it has influenced the way, like, archaeologists would describe everything they would find. So, for example, when they would find, like, figurines of, like, women, they would see it as, oh, they're just figurines for fertility rituals and not actual religions. Some authors, like this one, they want to re-examine all of those discoveries, keeping in mind that no, that's actually, you know, the mother goddess, whatever, and like this used to be a religion, and comparing to today how society or all the societies later on ended up being very competitive, patriarchal, like warlike, and how it used to be more communities. I think it's a really interesting topic. I feel like it breached it a little bit in Invisible Women. I know a lot more people have read that one, and how, again, the influence of who makes these discoveries and write those books influence everyone's opinion. They're like projecting their own views. So like they would find bodies and assume, oh, there are tools and like weapons. It has to be a man. And like when you actually look at the bones, no, it was a woman. So interesting topic. I'm really not far into it though. So I'm just telling you what the introduction is basically saying. So I'll let you know if this one is worth reading, but I once again think this is a really fascinating topic. I've read some fiction books that kind of have a little bit of that too. Like I'm thinking Octavia E. Butler, her Xenogenesis series, the first book being Dawn. It talks about how humanity, like it starts with humanity killing itself, and aliens swoop in and they try and save whatever's left. And at one point, the aliens mention how they're judging us, basically, how we're so obsessed with hierarchy and power. And I just think it's a really fascinating topic because they tend to say that, oh, that's just human nature. But is it? Is it? Because again, when you look back, it doesn't seem to be that way. So again, interesting topic. Too early to have an opinion of the specific book, but I want to read more about the topic, so I'm doing just that. So yeah, that's how things are going. Reading wise, did not make much progress. I'm slightly traumatized at the moment, and I do have to post this vlog eventually, but I'm going to give myself a few more days. I don't think I'm going to have time to finish any of those, but I'm going to try. It's just, I'm trying to have, again, low expectations for myself. It's been a rough month so far, but we survived. My mood is definitely getting better. I'm still feeling kind of loopy too from whatever they gave me. It worked, but not long enough. I told them to give me some, which they thought it was funny, but I was very serious. Also, I forgot to mention, because I was getting this done and I was going to be busy and locking myself in the bathroom, which Claudia did yell at me literally the whole night that I was in the bathroom. I had to keep the door closed because she did once jump in the toilet, because I lifted the seat, and before I got on there, she jumped on it because they love jumping on the toilet. I didn't want to make that mistake once things were going to move, so I locked the door, and I did finally install my TV on the wall, which I was worried how they were going to deal with that because they're cats, right? And I have metal studs, so I was worried things weren't going to be solid, but I managed to finally install it properly. And I'm going to show you one picture of them. They're all fascinated. I'm using YouTube videos of like, it flip-flop between like birds and squirrels, and they love those, but like it's fall, so there's less and less of them. So I put the TV on and they loved it. They're all fascinated. I had to move everything away from the TV so they wouldn't jump on it. They still tried a couple times. So far so good, but I'm going to wait before putting any kind of dresser or hutch underneath because I'm worried still, but they love it. So I will definitely be using this to create like iPad babies. I mean, during the winter, there's less fun stuff to watch outside, but so far they love it. Claudia is the first one that got kind of bored, but she's the smartest cat, so it was going to happen. Anyway, that's the update. I feel like I didn't talk about the cats, and like, I know some of you don't watch me for anything but the cats. So yeah, they're good. They all survived too. So I'm creating iPad babies. Okay, so I need to end the vlog because the video needs to go up. I'm trying to somewhat respect my schedule. So it's not as satisfying as me actually finishing the vlog on me finishing a book, but we did say that this week was just, we're cutting some slack here. I made it to a little past the halfway point. I'm at page 255. I wasn't going to lie and pretend I finished it. Which, do you know that this is one of my most asked questions in real life? People asking me, do you actually read the books you talk about? Which like always confuses me because what are you talking about? Like, how am I supposed to review books I haven't read? Like, I understand that like technically, I guess, if I were very vague in all my reviews and gave everything like 4 or 5 stars, whatever, I guess you can kind of get away with it. But like, I review my books with a pretty strong critique. Like, I try to always tell you why I didn't like it or where I liked it, and like, what do you do if there's a problematic scene later on and you didn't mention it, or like the writing style, or like how do you recommend it? Like when I do like, oh, if you like this, try that. Like, you can't do any of those things if you actually haven't read the book, right? So yeah, I always think it's really, really confusing when people ask that because I can't imagine. I would be stressed. Anyway, it doesn't really matter in terms of like talking about this book, but like I find it really fascinating. It happens so often. So I imagine some people watch videos thinking that you don't read the books, but like, how could I mention the spoilers? Like, how could I review all of these stories? Like, I wouldn't know any of that stuff. Like, for example, the one that is named Paper Menagerie, which is the title of the book, made me cry. I can't tell you that if I haven't read it. It was sad. I mean, most of these stories were, but they were beautiful. There's only one that I did skip called The Regular, which again, could not mention that. I have since looked up the reviews and some people mentioned that it is their favorite, so maybe I will give it a second shot. But like, I'm trying to respect the whole when I'm not vibing, I just move on. It's a work in progress, but like really instantly you have the story following an escort who gets killed, and like it's not super gruesome, but it's still like kind of brutal. I was not in the mood for it. But reading the other stories of the author, I don't think he meant it to be that way, and since other people mentioned that it's their favorite, it probably gets better. So I will see how I feel once I'm done with the book. I might go back. Feel free to convince me in the comment section of this video, but I will attempt to finish it before the end of the month. I probably will, but there's something about short story collection that I feel is just wrong to binge read them. I feel like it's too many stories too quickly since I've read them, you know, in a couple days. It's just too much for my brain. So I prefer in general to skip them because I usually find them unsatisfying. Like their skeleton of story, they're not great. Did not feel like that at all about this. So like this is definitely one of the best short story collections I have read. And I liked how they're all like Asian inspired. So they're different from whatever I've been reading. And it makes sense. The author is, I believe, Chinese. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Just binge reading it, especially right now. A long week and a half for me lately. So I've survived though. So there's that. I've only read like 8 more pages of this book. So whatever. And I've made no progress in the audiobook. So it was just, you know, we're just a day and a half later. Okay. And I've been recovering. So yeah, that's where we're at for the updates. So I still think it was fairly successful since this book had been on my shelf for probably at least 5 years, and I'm finally getting around to trying it. And I don't think I would have picked it up anytime soon because, again, I didn't really care for the other book that I read by him. So, and the other book was a fairly recent purchase, but so many of you had told me that it wasn't great. So I probably would not have picked it up anytime soon, and I got around to doing it for the vlog. So, plus I finished a couple more books. So I'm okay with how things went considering the real life events. I feel like it's easy to forget that if I'm doing mostly weekly reading vlogs, life will happen, you know? Like, think about your own weeks. Some weeks you're not in the mood to read or just to do anything. So imagine constantly having to like, I don't know, I feel like playing a role must be exhausting and I do not have the energy, at least at the moment. So I'm not going to pretend that this is like goal life. This is just real life. So yeah, I survived. My expectations were low, but I'm happy with how it went. I almost forgot. Gotta put the books. That is the satisfying portion. So yay, this is where we're at. I feel like it's looking pretty good this year. Pretty good. So not unhappy. Am I cheating by putting the last one in there? Maybe, but I will finish it. Okay. So yay. This was a fine reading challenge for my number 7, 8. I forgot everything that happened this week. It's probably for the best. So I will see you next month. Hopefully it will be a bit more cheerful, but I'm satisfied. So I'll put the one from last month on the screen in the video that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in my next videos. Bye.